Mimi Al-Laham is an analyst and political commentator and joins us now out of Perth. Mimi, welcome. What's your views on this? I mean, essentially, no matter how the Israel would try to spin the narrative, at the end of the day, you have a missile fired from Syria that almost took out Israel's Dimona nuclear weapons facility, its plant there. As of yesterday, that was unheard of.
Well, I think you said the word correctly, spin. I think that Israel has spun a very elaborate story. And it took them about 40 minutes post the Dimona strike to come up with the story of an errant Syrian air defense missile. I think that this is a lie. I think that this was a purposeful attack on Dimona, either by Syria or Iran. I think possibly it could be Syria because of the proximity of Syria to Israel or to Dimona. But Dimona is very far to the south of Israel, and to claim that it is an errant air defense missile, somehow getting to that range is a little bit of a stretch. Furthermore, nearby villages felt, a very loud explosion, and they reported their houses were shaking. The noise was heard in some places, like all the way up to Ramallah. So clearly, this wasn't just an errant air defense missile. It's far more likely to have been a surface-to-surface missile or even a ballistic missile, and that's what I believe it was. And I think that the story is a little bit strange. They say that it's an errant air defense missile, and yet from all the evidence shows that Israel attacked Syria after the explosion near Dimona. So how could the Syrian air defense have caused the explosion in Dimona when the attack happened after, the attack on Syria happened after the attack on Dimona? It doesn't make any logical sense. I think that Israel has a history of trying to diminish any victory against it, because it's so important to them to have this facade of invincibility. Just 14 hours ago, there was an attack on one of their missile factories, and they claimed that it was a test. There was a huge explosion, and once again, they claimed it was a test. A few years ago, when Syria shot down an Israeli jet, they claimed it was an engine failure, even though their pilot died. So I think that this is about they don't want to have to retaliate. It's clear that they don't want to retaliate. They're too afraid of the consequences, and so they're trying to downplay this as not an attack, but an accidental air defense missile, which is completely a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, just on that note, I remember a time when the leader of the Lebanese resistance movement, I think it was last year, during an interview, displayed a map of all occupied Palestine and said that the missiles of the resistance movement can reach every part of occupied Palestine. And he specifically noted to the Dimona nuclear facility, Israel's weapons nuclear facility. So how weak is Israel at this stage? Is it as weak as the spider's web, as Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said?
I think this is said about Israel a lot, that it is a one-bomb country. And the reason why that's said is because most of its citizens have somewhere else to go. They have citizenship of another country. So in a situation where they feel under threat, when there really is a war, I think a large percentage of their population will simply just leave to a better offer elsewhere. And that is why their facade of invincibility is so important to them. But I think it is now weaker than it's ever been. And in spite of the fact that there's been all these wars all around it, they couldn't defeat Syria and Iran, and the tides are turning against them. And I think that it's very clear that their time is running out.
Mimi, there's been reports from Israeli and US media that Iran has played a possible role in this. But we haven't heard any comments or remarks from any Iranian officials yet. Do you see any possible link? Because in the aftermath of the attack on one of Iran's nuclear facilities, Tehran blamed Tel Aviv for it.
Well, I think Iran has made it clear that they follow a policy of an eye for an eye, and they do this domestically, and that is also their foreign policy. So we saw that they had no fear in striking back at the United States, a nuclear power, a superpower, with ballistic missiles at Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq. So it's not. I don't think this is a coincidence that just 4 days ago, an Iranian official said that they should attack Dimona if they're going to really follow the religious, policy of an eye for an eye. So I think that it's very likely that Iran had a role in this, even if it was through Syria or Hezbollah, because at the end of the day, this is the resistance axis, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's coming from the resistance axis.